Welcome to the voice of Versha. Imagine waking up in a strange room with no memory of how you got there, no windows, no way out, and every door you open could be the last thing you ever do. That is exactly the nightmare that unfolds in the 1997 sci-fi horror film, Cube. So let's break it all down for you. The story begins with a man named Alderson, who wakes up inside a mysterious cubic room. The room is perfectly shaped like a cube, and every single wall, the floor, and the ceiling has a door. He is wearing a uniform with his name on it, and he has absolutely no idea how he ended up there. Curious and confused, he opens one of the wall doors and peeks through a short passage to find another room that looks exactly the same. He pulls back, and the door closes on its own behind him. He then tries the floor door and finds the same thing, another identical room below. He tries another wall door, same result. So he decides to move forward and enter one of these rooms. But the moment he steps inside, without any warning, a razor-sharp grid slices him into pieces. Just like that, Alderson is dead, and we understand immediately that these rooms are not safe. Some time passes, and we meet Quentin, who has been carefully moving from room to room on his own. He enters one room and finds a man named Worf lying there, unconscious. Quentin tries to wake him up but cannot. He opens a wall door, checks the next room, finds it empty, and when he turns back around, Worf is finally awake. Before they can even properly introduce themselves, they hear a noise coming from a neighboring room. Quentin positions himself near the door, ready to defend. The door opens and a woman named Holloway stumbles in. Quentin, acting on instinct and fear, grabs her by the clothes and throws her to the ground, raising his fist to strike her. But she screams, and in that moment, Quentin realizes she is just another terrified victim like them. He immediately backs off and apologizes. Then they hear someone else screaming for help. Quentin opens another door and finds a young woman named Levin trapped in the neighboring room. She prepares to cross the passage herself, but Quentin stops her and insists on going in first to make sure it is safe. He carefully enters her room, checks around, and then helps her cross over to join the group. During the crossing, her glasses fall and crack. At that moment, the ceiling door opens above them and a man named Ren climbs down to join the group. Quentin tells everyone that they cannot just randomly climb through rooms because the passages are filled with deadly traps, and he shares that when he peeked into a lower room earlier, he almost lost his head quite literally. Holloway notices that Worf has a bleeding wound on his head, and she starts examining it, revealing that she is a doctor. Ren, who seems the most calm and calculated of the group, takes off one of his boots and throws it into a neighboring room. Immediately, a trap activates and the boot is burned to a crisp. From this, Ren concludes that there are motion sensors on the walls of dangerous rooms. Quentin asks if anyone remembers how they ended up in this place, but nobody does. They all remember simply going about their normal daily lives, and then suddenly blacking out and waking up in these rooms wearing identical uniforms. Strange mechanical noises can be heard coming from somewhere above them, which unsettles everyone. The group begins debating what to do next. Levin suggests waiting in the room for someone to come and rescue them, but Worf is convinced that no one is coming for them. Most of the group agrees they need to actively find a way out. When Levin starts to panic and break down emotionally, Quentin steps in to calm her down. He tells her that he is a police officer and promises to keep her safe. Ren tests another room by throwing his boot into it, and this time nothing happens, so they move into that room. They repeat this boot testing method several times, slowly making their way from room to room, while the strange mechanical sounds seem to be getting louder and closer. At some point while crossing a passage, Levin spots a small metal plate on the wall. She adjusts her cracked glasses and reads it. There are numbers on it, and every room has its own different plate. The group is worried this might mean there are hundreds of millions of rooms, but they hold themselves together. Holloway, the doctor, points out a grim reality. Without food or water, they will only survive for about 3 days under this kind of stress. Ren reveals a survival trick, telling the group that he has been sucking on a button to keep his mouth from going dry, and he suggests Levin does the same to keep her saliva flowing. A few rooms later, Ren suddenly stops the group from entering the next one. The boot trick showed no trap, but Ren notices the air inside feels unusually dry. He explains that there must be a molecular chemical sensor in that room, one that detects hydrogen released by human skin. The group is shocked by how detailed his knowledge is, and Quentin pieces it together, realizing that Ren is actually the infamous Ren of Attica, a man notorious for escaping from 7 different prisons. Ren confirms this without shame and makes it clear that he is only cooperating with the group because he might need their help, but if they start making foolish decisions, he will leave them without hesitation. He delivers a sharp speech about staying focused and not panicking. Then he tests the next room with his boot, and it seems fine, so he crosses through the passage. He lands safely on the other side, and for just a second, everything seems okay. But then a device above him slowly drips acid directly onto his face. The door has already closed. Quentin frantically pulls it open again, and Ren crawls back through, his skin literally melting from his face. His body convulses violently for a short time before he dies in front of everyone. It is a horrifying moment that makes it absolutely clear that the boot trick alone is not enough to detect every trap. Now the group has to completely rethink their strategy. Quentin takes a step back and starts thinking about why each of them is there. He points out that he is a cop, Ren was an escape artist, and Holloway is a doctor. He wonders if everyone was placed there intentionally for a specific purpose. But Levin says she is just a college student, and Worf admits he only has a boring office job. Holloway begins to vent her frustration, saying that someone broke into their lives and dropped them into this nightmare. She also complains about her jewelry being taken. Quentin then notices something important. Everything was taken from everyone except Levin's glasses. He concludes that whoever built this place left her glasses on purpose because they expected her to be able to read something. He asks her if she studies mathematics, and she confirms that she does. Levin puts on her glasses and carefully begins studying the number plates on the walls of the rooms. She also discovers that she has been memorizing the numbers from every room they pass through. After analyzing the pattern, she makes a crucial realization. Rooms with prime numbers in their plates always contain traps. To test this theory, she identifies a passage that has no prime numbers in its plate and walks through it without any hesitation. Nothing happens. Her theory is confirmed. With Levin now guiding the group using math, they begin moving through rooms much more safely and smoothly, avoiding all the traps by following her calculations. About 9 or 10 hours pass, and the group is exhausted and demoralized. They feel like they have been walking forever but have made no real progress. Holloway begins losing her mental composure, so Quentin tries to keep her distracted by talking to her. She does not want to discuss her work, so she asks about his personal life. He opens up and shares that he has 3 children and that he is separated from his wife. Their conversation is briefly warm and human amid all the horror surrounding them. They continue moving until Levin cannot find the right numbers on any of the wall doors or the floor. That means the only correct exit is the door in the ceiling. Quentin climbs up and pushes it open, and suddenly a man drops through it and falls directly onto the group. His name is Kazan. He sits with his head resting against the wall and makes strange repetitive gestures with his hands. Holloway immediately recognizes that he is autistic and takes him under her wing, promising to look after him. The group keeps moving for more hours, going from room to room using Levin's number system. They also start discussing theories about who built this place and why. Holloway believes the military is responsible, while Quentin thinks it could be the sick entertainment of some wealthy psychopath. Holloway dismisses his theory with a laugh and moves into the next room, but suddenly she cannot breathe and starts choking. Kazan begins screaming in panic, thinking she is dying. But it turns out she simply swallowed the button she had been sucking on and she is perfectly fine once it passes. Later, Levin identifies the next safe room. Quentin trusts Levin and moves ahead, but just before he takes another step, Levin screams at him to freeze. He stops immediately and looks down to find himself surrounded by a nearly invisible wire trap. He leaps backward just in time, and the trap snaps shut right where he was standing. He escapes but suffers a painful cut on his leg. Quentin tells Levin and Holloway that he does not trust Worf because he had a feeling Worf knew that room was a trap and deliberately said nothing. When Worf returns with Kazan, the group decides to rest because Levin's system has stopped working reliably. She sits down and works through a mountain of calculations while Kazan wanders into a corner and urinates. Worf finds the whole situation darkly amusing, and Quentin snaps at him for his constant negative and nihilistic attitude. This leads to a heated argument between them. Quentin challenges Worf by saying that if nothing really matters as he keeps claiming, then he should just step into the next random room without checking for traps. That finally pushes Worf to break down completely, and he screams that there is absolutely no way out. He knows this because he was the architect hired to design the exterior shell of the building. He admits he was given instructions to design a hollow cube-shaped shell and nothing more. He never met the people who hired him, never saw the inside, never even left his office. They gave him dimensions and coordinates over the phone and nothing else. Quentin is skeptical about Worf's story, but Holloway explains that this is exactly how secretive organizations operate, keeping every employee separate so that no one person ever knows the full picture. She begins speaking passionately against corrupt systems and governments. Worf, however, offers a different and deeply unsettling theory. He believes that there is no mastermind watching them, no grand plan, and no one monitoring the cube at all. He thinks this was simply a massive government project that got abandoned long ago, and that some bureaucrats are still collecting paychecks to maintain it out of habit. His conclusion is that their suffering is completely pointless and meaningless, and this philosophical despair hits the entire group like a wave. When Worf starts mocking Quentin personally, the police officer completely snaps and begins physically beating him. Levin steps in and stops the violence, reminding Quentin that Worf is the only one with any real information about the structure of the building and they desperately need him. She then calmly sits down with Worf and starts asking him specific questions. He tells her the exact dimensions of the cube and confirms there is only one exit door, but he does not know where it is located. Levin walks around the room making mental calculations, comparing everything Worf told her with the number plates on the walls. After working through it carefully, she concludes that there are exactly 17,576 rooms inside the cube. Then she has another breakthrough, realizing that the numbers on the plates are actually Cartesian coordinates, the same kind used in three-dimensional computer graphics, essentially like a map showing latitude and longitude but in 3 dimensions. This means each plate tells them exactly where they are inside the giant cube. She quickly calculates their current position and tells the group they are only 7 rooms away from the outer edge. With renewed hope, the group starts moving again. Quentin, perhaps trying to punish Worf for everything, decides that from now on Worf will always go first into each new room to test for traps.